10 years had passed since Alex graduated from high school. Those years were not easy, and sometimes it felt like he had spent most of them struggling just to stay afloat. Back in school, Alex had always been the quiet one, the kid who rarely spoke up, who kept his head down, and who did his best to avoid attention. But that didn't stop the bullies from finding him. They laughed at him, called him names, and made fun of his clothes, his lunch, even the way he spoke. Every day felt like walking on a tightrope. One wrong move and he would be the target of cruel jokes. Alex had learned early on that life wasn't always fair, and he had grown used to swallowing his pride to avoid trouble. High school ended, and Alex thought things would get better. But life had its own plans. He found himself facing challenges he hadn't anticipated. A few years after graduation, he became a single dad, taking care of his daughter Lily. She was small, energetic, and full of curiosity, and she depended on him completely. The early years were the hardest. Balancing work, school, and taking care of Lily left him exhausted, and there were days when he felt he might not be able to handle it all. Yet, every time he saw her smile or heard her laugh, it reminded him why he had to keep going. He couldn't afford to give up, not for himself, and certainly not for her. During these years, Alex had to work multiple jobs just to make ends meet. Some days, he would leave home before the sun rose and return long after it set, often carrying groceries in one hand and Lily in the other. There were times he worried he wasn't giving her enough, that she would grow up without the stability every child deserved. But he did what he could. He cooked her meals, helped her with her homework, and told her stories at night, always trying to give her a sense of love and security that he knew she deserved. Despite his hard work and the love he poured into his daughter, there were moments when Alex still felt the sting of those high school years. Sometimes he would pass a group of people laughing together, and he would catch a fleeting memory of someone's cruel words echoing in his mind. It was a part of him that never fully disappeared, a reminder of how life had treated him unfairly when he was younger. But over time, he learned to carry those memories with a sense of strength rather than shame. One morning, while Alex was scrolling through his phone during a rare, quiet moment, he received an unexpected message. The notification popped up from an old social media account he hadn't used in years. It was from Tyler, one of the bullies from his high school days. The message was an invitation to a reunion set for the weekend. It sounded casual, friendly even, but the tone of the text made Alex pause. There were emojis that seemed to smirk, and a message that hinted at amusement, like they had been planning this for some time. Something about it felt off, but Alex couldn't quite put his finger on it. His first instinct was to ignore it. For years, he had avoided confronting his past bullies, choosing to focus on building a better life for himself and Lily. But curiosity, that stubborn part of him, made him consider attending. He wondered what it would be like to walk into a room full of people who had once made him feel small. Part of him wanted closure, a chance to see if they had changed or if they were still the same people. But another part of him was cautious. He didn't want to step into a situation where he might feel vulnerable again. He asked a few close friends for their opinion. They listened carefully, some shaking their heads and warning him not to go. They reminded him that the people who had hurt him in high school might still carry the same attitudes and that it was possible they had invited him only to mock him again. But Alex felt something different. He didn't want revenge or confrontation. He wanted to see for himself, to face the past with dignity. He wanted to arrive on his own terms, not as the awkward, shy teenager he once was, but as the man he had become. Over the next few days, Alex thought about what attending the reunion would mean. He reflected on how far he had come and the life he had built despite the challenges. He thought about Lily, who had grown into a bright, cheerful little girl who loved her father dearly. He thought about the countless nights he had stayed up late worrying about bills yet never losing hope. He realized that he had earned a quiet sense of confidence that didn't rely on anyone else's approval. Alex also thought about the irony of the situation. The people who had mocked him for being poor, awkward, or weak were about to see him in a completely different light. He didn't want to flaunt his achievements or make them feel small. That was never his style. But he did want to show that life had moved forward and that he had not been defeated by their cruelty. It was a subtle kind of triumph, a reminder that resilience and hard work could change a person's path. In preparation for the reunion, Alex decided to invest a little time in himself. He didn't need to reinvent who he was, but he wanted to feel confident and comfortable. He bought a few pieces of clothing that made him feel polished, not flashy, and he made sure his hair and grooming were neat. He wanted to walk into that room as a man who carried himself with quiet assurance, someone who had faced life's challenges and come through stronger. As the weekend approached, Alex found himself thinking about the past more than he expected. He remembered the faces of classmates who had laughed at him, the hurtful words that seemed to follow him everywhere, and the loneliness he had felt at lunch tables. But he also remembered the moments of kindness he had experienced, small gestures from teachers or classmates who had shown him that not everyone was cruel. These memories, both painful and comforting, had shaped him into someone who could face the world without fear. On the morning of the reunion, Alex woke up early. He prepared breakfast for Lily, making sure she had everything she needed. She chattered happily about school and her friends, unaware of the tension in her father's mind. Alex smiled at her and reminded himself why he had to face this event with courage. It wasn't about proving anyone wrong or showing off. It was about standing tall, owning his story, and being the example of strength and integrity that he wanted Lily to see. Driving to the reunion, Alex felt a mixture of emotions. There was a hint of nervousness, a touch of excitement, and a sense of anticipation. He thought about the moments that had brought him here, the struggles, the long nights, the sacrifices, and he felt a quiet pride. He knew that whatever happened that evening, he was walking in as a man who had earned his place in the world, someone who had transformed his life through effort and perseverance. The building where the reunion was being held came into view. Alex parked his car, taking a moment to adjust his jacket and straighten his posture. He glanced at Lily, who looked up at him with admiration and curiosity. Her presence reminded him that the past was not something to fear. It was something he had survived. With a deep breath, Alex stepped out of the car, ready to face the memories, the people, and the moment he had chosen to confront. As he walked toward the entrance, he noticed a few familiar faces through the windows, laughing and chatting as they always had. The sight brought back a rush of memories, but Alex kept his focus. He wasn't the same person he had been 10 years ago. He was someone who had faced life's hardships, someone who had loved and been loved, someone who had built a life with determination and care. That strength carried him forward step by step, toward the door and into a room filled with echoes of the past, ready to write the next chapter of his story. The days leading up to the reunion were filled with a mix of anticipation and quiet reflection for Alex. He spent time preparing, not just in terms of clothing or appearance, but mentally and emotionally. He wanted to make sure that he walked into the room with confidence, not arrogance, and with a sense of peace about who he had become. Alex thought about how much life had changed since high school, how the struggles he had faced had shaped him into a stronger, more resilient person. Each challenge he had faced, the long nights working multiple jobs, the sleepless nights with Lily, the times when he worried about paying bills or putting food on the table, had taught him patience, perseverance, and a quiet form of strength that he carried with him now. He reflected on his daughter, Lily, and how much she had influenced his life. She was a bright, cheerful little girl, and seeing the world through her eyes reminded him of the simple joys in life. He had learned to find happiness in small moments, in laughter and kindness, and in the connections he had built with people who mattered. That perspective made him realize that the opinions of those old classmates no longer had power over him. They could invite him to mock him or belittle him, but he knew he was no longer the same person who had been vulnerable to their cruelty. In the mornings, Alex would often spend time thinking about the path his life had taken. He had started a small software company, working tirelessly to build something meaningful. It wasn't about wealth or status. It was about creating stability for Lily and himself, about proving that dedication and hard work could transform a life. He had learned new skills, met inspiring people, and built a life that he could be proud of. And yet he remained humble, aware that life was not about showing off but about integrity and perseverance. The invitation to the reunion lingered in his mind. He wondered what it would feel like to see the faces of those who had once tormented him. Would they remember him as he had been? Or would they see the man he had become? He knew that some of them had probably achieved their own successes, and he did not want to judge them or compare himself. His focus was on himself and his journey. He wanted to show that he had overcome the challenges, that he had built a life of meaning, and that he had done so without losing his values or the love he had for his daughter. Alex also thought about the possible scenarios at the reunion. He imagined the awkward moments, the attempts at casual conversation, the nervous laughter of people realizing that he had changed. He thought about Tyler, the main bully who had always taken delight in mocking him. What would Tyler think now, seeing Alex confident, self-assured, and successful in his own right? Alex knew he didn't need to gloat or make anyone feel small. His presence alone would be enough to show that life had moved forward in unexpected ways. That sense of quiet triumph was more satisfying than revenge could ever be. In preparation for the reunion, Alex also focused on appearance. He didn't want to dress in a flashy or attention-seeking way, but he wanted to feel good about himself. He bought a few pieces of clothing that were simple, elegant, and comfortable. He styled his hair, made sure his shoes were clean, and practiced walking with a confident posture. Each detail mattered not for anyone else's approval, but for his own sense of self-respect. He wanted to enter that room as someone who had faced life's hardships and come through stronger, someone who carried dignity and pride without arrogance. Beyond appearance, Alex prepared himself emotionally. He reminded himself that he did not need validation from anyone at that reunion. The people who had once mocked him were no longer the center of his life. What mattered was the stability, happiness, and love he had built for himself and Lily. That focus gave him a sense of calm, a quiet confidence that could not be shaken by anyone's words or actions. He practiced small gestures of politeness, friendly smiles, and composed responses, knowing that these would serve him well in case any awkward or confrontational moments arose. Alex also reflected on his relationship with Lily. He knew that attending the reunion could be an opportunity for her to see him as a role model, someone who faced challenges with dignity and strength. He wanted her to understand that life was not always easy, but it was possible to navigate difficulties with integrity and patience. He wanted her to see that resilience was about persistence, not revenge, and that personal growth was the best response to past hurts. As the day of the reunion approached, Alex felt a mixture of emotions. There was excitement, curiosity, and a touch of nervousness, but these feelings were balanced by a deep sense of readiness. He knew he was prepared, not just in appearance, but in spirit and mind. He had learned to carry himself with quiet confidence, and that confidence came from years of overcoming obstacles and building a life based on love, hard work, and self-respect. On the morning of the reunion, Alex woke early and prepared breakfast for Lily. She was cheerful, chattering about her school day, her friends, and the little things that brought her joy. Her energy reminded Alex of why he had worked so hard, why he had persevered despite challenges, and why he faced life with patience and determination. Her presence was a source of strength and inspiration, a reminder that he had built a life worth living. After breakfast, Alex spent a few moments reflecting on his journey. He thought about the years of struggle, the nights when he worried about bills, the exhaustion he felt from juggling work and parenting, and the moments of doubt when he questioned whether he could provide a good life for Lily. Yet, each of these challenges had taught him resilience, patience, and perseverance. He had emerged stronger, more confident, and ready to face the world on his own terms. Before leaving, Alex reviewed his plan for the reunion. He would arrive with calm confidence, greet people politely, and respond to any teasing or awkward comments with composed, friendly gestures. He would not engage in arguments or seek revenge, knowing that his presence alone would convey his growth and achievements. He reminded himself that success was not measured by material wealth alone, but by the strength of character, the ability to overcome challenges, and the love and care he provided for his daughter. When Alex finally set out for the reunion, he felt a sense of anticipation. The streets, the familiar sights, and the thought of entering a room filled with memories from a decade ago all contributed to a whirlwind of emotions. But beneath it all, there was a quiet confidence. He had faced challenges before and emerged stronger. He was not the same timid teenager who had been mocked and belittled. He was a man who had persevered, who had built a life of meaning, and who carried himself with dignity. Driving to the reunion, Alex thought about the people he would see. Some he remembered vividly, others only as faint impressions from the past. He wondered how they had changed, what paths they had taken, and whether they had faced their own struggles. He knew that everyone carried their own story, and that curiosity about their lives did not diminish his own achievements. He focused on the simple truth that he had grown, had succeeded in ways that mattered, and was ready to face whatever awaited him. The building where the reunion was held soon came into view. Alex parked his car, adjusted his jacket, and took a deep breath. Lily looked up at him with bright eyes full of curiosity and pride. That look reminded him of why he had come this far, and why he faced life with patience, resilience, and courage. He knew that walking into that room was not about proving anything to anyone, but about standing tall and acknowledging his own journey. As Alex approached the entrance, he saw groups of familiar faces through the windows, laughing and chatting just as they had years ago. Memories of high school flooded his mind, the laughter, the teasing, and the loneliness. But Alex was no longer the same person. He had learned to carry himself with dignity, to meet the world with strength and kindness, and to find pride in his own achievements. That knowledge carried him forward, step by step, toward the door and into the room that once held so many painful memories. He was ready to face the past, not with anger or resentment, but with quiet confidence and the knowledge that he had emerged stronger than ever. The evening of the reunion arrived, and Alex felt a mixture of emotions as he parked his car in the lot. The sleek prestige vehicle drew a few glances from people walking nearby, but Alex paid no attention. The car was not a statement to others, but a personal symbol of how far he had come in life. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the years behind him and the quiet sense of accomplishment that had grown with time. Lily squeezed his hand gently, her presence a reminder of the love and responsibility that had carried him through the toughest moments. She was smiling, excited to see the faces of people her father had once spoken about. Alex returned her smile, feeling a warmth that gave him courage. As he walked toward the entrance, Alex noticed the familiar building, its old charm unchanged, yet it seemed different somehow. He remembered walking these halls as a teenager, feeling small and invisible, constantly aware of the judgmental eyes of classmates who made fun of him. Tonight, however, those memories felt like distant echoes. He was no longer that timid teenager. He was a man who had faced hardship, worked hard, and built a life filled with love, purpose, and dignity. He held his head high, walking with calm confidence, ready to confront the past without fear. Inside the hall, laughter and chatter filled the air. Groups of former classmates clustered around tables, sharing stories, catching up on years of life experiences. Alex paused for a moment, scanning the crowd. Some faces were immediately recognizable, triggering memories of the awkward teenage years, the times he had been mocked or left out. Others were harder to place, blurred by time and changes in appearance. He noticed Tyler, the one who had made his high school life particularly difficult, standing near the refreshments, chatting animatedly with a few people. Alex could see the smirk on his face and the casual way he gestured, a reminder that some personalities stayed the same. Alex moved through the crowd, greeting a few people politely, nodding and smiling without the slightest hint of awkwardness. Some recognized him immediately, their expressions shifting from casual acknowledgement to surprise. Whispers began to ripple through the room as people realized who he was. The once quiet, shy boy who had endured their teasing had grown into a man exuding quiet confidence. It was a subtle transformation that was impossible to ignore. Tyler noticed Alex walking across the room and stopped mid-sentence, his eyes widening slightly. For a moment he seemed at a loss for words, as if he had not expected to see Alex like this. The air felt charged with unspoken tension, a mixture of curiosity, embarrassment, and something that Alex could not quite name. He smiled politely, a calm and measured gesture that conveyed both friendliness and self-assurance. He did not rush to confront or dominate the situation. He simply existed in the space with dignity, allowing his presence to speak for itself. Some former classmates tried to act casual, as if they hadn't noticed the change in Alex. They laughed quietly, exchanged glances, and whispered among themselves. Others approached him, offering greetings and small talk, clearly intrigued by how much he had grown and changed. Alex responded with warmth and sincerity, careful to keep the interaction light and friendly. He was not seeking validation or approval. He was simply navigating the room with poise, acknowledging the past while remaining focused on the present. As he mingled, Alex noticed the subtle reactions of people who had once mocked him. Some looked uncomfortable, unsure of how to approach him, while others avoided eye contact entirely. A few murmured apologies or made faint attempts to show respect, recognizing that the boy they had once underestimated had become someone they could not dismiss. Alex acknowledged these gestures with quiet politeness, neither gloating nor seeking revenge. His presence was enough to convey his growth and resilience, a testament to the years of perseverance and hard work that had shaped him. Throughout the evening, Alex kept an eye on Lily. She was observant, taking in the room and noticing the subtle shifts in behavior around her father. He could see her pride in his calm demeanor and the way he handled the awkward or tense moments with grace. It was important to him that she witnessed not only his achievements but also his character, the ability to face challenges without bitterness, to handle difficult situations with integrity and composure. This was a lesson he wanted her to carry forward in her own life. Tyler eventually approached Alex, attempting a friendly tone that seemed forced. "Alex, it's been a long time. You look different," he said, his voice tinged with nervousness. Alex smiled warmly, acknowledging Tyler's greeting without any trace of resentment. He had no need to confront old wounds with hostility. His life, his achievements, and his confidence were enough to communicate the change. Tyler's discomfort was evident, but Alex did not seek to exploit it. Instead, he maintained a sense of calm and assurance, allowing his demeanor to speak volumes. The room was filled with a mixture of nostalgia and curiosity. Conversation shifted, often circling back to Alex as people who had once judged him now observed him with a mixture of surprise and respect. Some tried to make jokes, testing whether he still carried the insecurities they remembered. Alex responded with light humor and composed answers, skillfully navigating the situation without defensiveness. His ability to remain composed and gracious left many in awe, realizing that the person they had underestimated was now someone who commanded respect without demanding it. As the evening progressed, Alex noticed the subtle changes in the dynamics of the room. The former bullies, who had once thrived on making him feel small, now seemed uncertain and introspective. Some tried to engage in conversation, seeking common ground or acknowledging shared experiences. Others quietly observed, perhaps reflecting on their own growth or the passage of time. Alex felt a quiet satisfaction not from revenge but from witnessing the natural consequence of resilience and perseverance. Life had unfolded in unexpected ways, and he had emerged stronger, more confident, and more self-assured. At one point, a group of classmates gathered around a table, sharing stories about their lives since graduation. Alex joined the conversation, contributing with genuine interest and engaging anecdotes. His ability to listen, empathize, and share without boasting created a sense of connection that was both surprising and refreshing to those who remembered him as quiet and timid. The room began to see him not as the boy they once mocked, but as a man of character and depth. Throughout the evening, Alex maintained a balance between engaging with the crowd and keeping his own sense of peace. He did not seek approval or validation, but he accepted recognition graciously when it came. Each interaction reinforced his belief that true strength came from within, from the ability to overcome challenges and build a life of meaning, rather than from external validation or revenge. By the time the reunion was well underway, Alex had navigated the room with grace and confidence. He had confronted the past not with anger or hostility, but with dignity and composure. The once painful memories of high school teasing and bullying were now part of a story of growth and resilience. He had demonstrated quietly and powerfully that life could be transformed through perseverance, love, and hard work. Lily, observing her father throughout the evening, was filled with admiration. She saw him as a role model, someone who had faced adversity and emerged stronger, someone who had maintained integrity and kindness despite the challenges. She learned a subtle but profound lesson about resilience, patience, and the power of personal growth. Alex's actions that evening were not just for himself but for her, a living example of how to navigate life with strength and grace. As the evening drew to a close, Alex felt a sense of fulfillment. He had faced the reunion on his own terms, demonstrated his growth, and handled each interaction with dignity. The room had shifted in subtle but meaningful ways as former classmates recognized the man he had become and reflected on their own journeys. Alex had not sought to punish or humiliate anyone. He had simply shown that he had moved forward with strength, love, and self-respect. When it was time to leave, Alex gathered Lily and prepared to step out into the night. The reunion had provided closure, a chance to face the past and acknowledge the present. He felt a quiet pride, not from material success or external recognition, but from knowing that he had faced life's challenges and emerged stronger, with love for his daughter and a life built on integrity. As they walked to the car, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment, understanding that true strength came from resilience, character, and the ability to rise above adversity. The conversation with Tyler hung in the air, subtle yet charged, as Alex continued moving gracefully through the room. He felt a calm energy within him, a quiet strength that had been forged through years of struggle and perseverance. Every smile, every nod, every small exchange of words reflected the man he had become. He did not need to prove himself. His presence alone was enough to communicate the story of his journey. The room, once full of laughter at his expense, now had a different rhythm, a mix of curiosity, awkwardness, and quiet respect. Tyler lingered nearby, trying to catch Alex's attention, perhaps looking for a sign that he had been hurt by the past. Alex, however, was composed, responding to each attempt at conversation with gentle humor and a calm demeanor. It was a delicate balance, acknowledging the past without letting it define him, remaining approachable yet strong. Alex understood that people often remembered the versions of others they had once judged, but tonight, he was showing them the truth of who he had become. Other former classmates began to notice the subtle shifts in behavior. Whispers spread around the room as people watched Alex move with confidence. Some tried to engage with him casually, testing whether he had changed or if he would respond with the same insecurity he once had. Alex met each attempt with warmth and grace, his words measured and sincere. He spoke about his career, his life as a single dad, and the small victories and challenges that had shaped him. His humility and honesty made a powerful impression, quietly commanding attention and admiration. There were moments when old jokes or teasing surfaced. A classmate would make a lighthearted comment about the past, expecting Alex to react as he had as a teenager. But Alex responded with calm humor and gentle deflection. He did not laugh at himself in a way that suggested weakness, nor did he lash out in anger. Instead, he engaged with a balance of wit and sincerity that left the other person momentarily speechless. The subtle power of his composure was more effective than any overt demonstration of success or revenge. Alex observed how the group dynamics were slowly shifting. Those who had once been bullies now seemed unsure, some offering tentative apologies, others watching quietly, reflecting on the contrast between the boy they had mocked and the man before them. Alex accepted these gestures with gracious acknowledgement, never pushing for confrontation, never seeking to shame anyone. He understood that life had a way of balancing itself, and sometimes quiet dignity and resilience spoke louder than words or displays of wealth. Throughout the evening, Alex's interactions were natural and engaging. He listened to stories of successes, failures, and everyday challenges that others shared. He offered encouragement and empathy when appropriate, demonstrating not just his own growth but his capacity to connect with people genuinely. There was no bitterness in his tone, only an underlying strength that came from knowing his own worth and the path he had walked. His quiet authority in conversation drew people in, reminding them that true confidence came from self-assuredness, not arrogance. Lily observed the room with wide eyes, taking in the subtle reactions of the people around her father. She noticed the way some former classmates looked uncomfortable, how others whispered, and how Alex handled each interaction with calm composure. She felt proud of him, understanding in her own way that her father had faced challenges and grown into someone worthy of admiration. The experience was teaching her a lesson she would carry throughout her life. That strength, resilience, and integrity were more valuable than popularity or superficial approval. As the night progressed, Tyler attempted to regain control of the conversation, perhaps hoping to reassert the dominance he had held in high school. He tried to make jokes, recounting incidents from the past, expecting Alex to respond with embarrassment or self-doubt. But Alex remained unshaken. He laughed politely when appropriate, shared small stories of his own, and engaged with Tyler in a way that was friendly yet assertive. The power dynamic had shifted subtly but unmistakably, with Alex now holding the calm authority that came from years of perseverance and personal growth. Other former classmates began to notice this shift. Conversations turned to reflections on the past, with people acknowledging the changes in Alex and, in some cases, reevaluating their own behavior. There were moments of awkwardness, as some realized that the boy they had underestimated was now a man of confidence and dignity. Some quietly admitted their admiration, while others avoided eye contact, perhaps uncomfortable with the contrast between who they remembered and who Alex had become. Throughout all of this, Alex maintained a consistent approach. He did not gloat, he did not belittle, and he did not seek revenge. His success was measured not in material possessions or displays of wealth, but in his composure, his ability to connect with people, and the love and care he provided for Lily. Every interaction was guided by empathy and understanding, acknowledging the past while focusing on the present and the lessons learned. There were moments when people tried to probe, asking about his career, his life as a single dad, or the challenges he had faced. Alex answered with honesty, sharing the ups and downs without embellishment or complaint. His transparency created a sense of authenticity that drew people in, showing them that resilience and personal growth were achieved through effort, patience, and determination rather than shortcuts or luck. Some classmates approached him cautiously, seeking advice or insight into how he had managed to build his life despite the struggles he had faced. Alex shared practical advice, emphasizing the importance of persistence, self-respect, and kindness. He encouraged them to focus on their own growth, reminding them that everyone had challenges, and that true success came from handling those challenges with integrity and resilience. The subtle power of Alex's presence became more evident as the evening wore on. He moved gracefully through conversations, offering thoughtful responses and maintaining a calm demeanor. People who had once dismissed him as awkward or unworthy now looked at him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. The quiet confidence he carried was a reflection of the years of hard work, dedication, and love that had shaped him into the man he was tonight. Lily remained a quiet observer, occasionally chiming in with polite questions or comments. Her presence added a layer of warmth to Alex's interactions, reminding him of why he had worked so hard and why he faced the challenges of life with courage. She was proud of her father, and Alex took pride in showing her that strength and integrity were more important than superficial judgments or fleeting popularity. As the reunion continued, Alex noticed the subtle changes in the atmosphere. People who had once mocked him were now engaging in more respectful, thoughtful conversation. The room that had once felt tense and judgmental now had a sense of acknowledgement, a recognition of growth and resilience. Alex understood that he had achieved what he had set out to do. He had faced the past, navigated the present, and demonstrated the quiet power of dignity and perseverance. By the end of the evening, Alex felt a sense of completion. He had navigated the reunion with grace, faced old bullies with calm confidence, and demonstrated the value of resilience and integrity. The experience had not been about revenge or proving anyone wrong. It had been about standing tall, acknowledging the journey and showing that true strength came from within. He had reclaimed the narrative of his life, transforming past pain into a testament of personal growth and perseverance. As the night wound down, Alex gathered Lily and prepared to leave. The reunion had provided closure, a chance to confront old memories and reaffirm the values that had guided him throughout his life. He felt a quiet satisfaction, knowing that he had faced the evening with dignity and composure. The lessons of resilience, patience, and self-respect had been on full display, not only for himself but for Lily, who had witnessed the power of personal growth firsthand. Walking to the car, Alex reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. The years of struggle, the moments of doubt, the sleepless nights caring for Lily, and the persistent effort to build a meaningful life had all contributed to the man he had become. He understood that life's challenges were opportunities to grow, that true strength was measured by resilience and integrity, and that the opinions of others did not define one's worth. As they drove away from the reunion, Alex looked at Lily and smiled. She returned the smile, her eyes filled with admiration and love. In that moment, he realized that the evening had not just been about facing old classmates. It had been a reaffirmation of everything he valued: hard work, love, resilience, and dignity. He had faced the past without bitterness, navigated the present with grace, and set an example for the future, and that was more powerful than any victory or recognition he could have sought from others. After leaving the reunion, Alex felt a sense of relief and fulfillment that he hadn't experienced in years. The night had been more than just a gathering of old classmates. It had been a reflection of how far he had come and the strength he had gained from facing life's challenges. As he drove home with Lily beside him, he thought about the journey that had brought them to this point, the struggles, the sacrifices, and the countless small victories that often went unnoticed but had shaped the life they now lived. The city lights passed by as Alex reflected on the reunion. He remembered the moments of surprise on the faces of his former classmates, the way Tyler had paused mid-sentence, and the whispers that rippled across the room as people recognized the quiet confidence he carried. It wasn't wealth or material success that had commanded their attention, but the integrity, composure, and resilience that had defined him over the years. Alex realized that true transformation didn't need to be announced or celebrated. It was simply shown through how one carried themselves and treated others. Lily leaned against him, tired but happy, and Alex felt a deep sense of gratitude. She had been his motivation through the toughest times, the reason he had kept pushing forward even when the odds seemed insurmountable. Her presence reminded him that success was not measured by the opinions of others but by the love, care, and stability one could provide for those who depended on them. Alex knew that he had achieved that and more, building a life that was meaningful and filled with purpose. As they arrived home, Alex parked the car and stepped out, taking a moment to appreciate the quiet of the night. The neighborhood was calm, a stark contrast to the energy and tension of the reunion. He opened the door for Lily, who bounded inside with her usual enthusiasm, and followed her in with a sense of peace. The house, modest yet warm, symbolized the life he had built through hard work, patience, and perseverance. It was a life that was entirely his own, free from the judgment or ridicule of others and filled with love for his daughter. After settling in, Alex sat down for a moment, reflecting on the lessons of the evening. He thought about how the reunion had offered closure, not just in terms of facing former bullies, but in affirming the values and character that had carried him through life. He realized that the past did not define him. It was the choices he had made and the effort he had put into building a meaningful life that truly mattered. The experience reinforced the idea that resilience, patience, and integrity were far more powerful than revenge or seeking validation from others. Alex also thought about the subtle impact the reunion might have had on his former classmates. Perhaps they had gained a new perspective, realizing that people were capable of growth and transformation, and that the judgments of the past did not necessarily hold power over the present. Some might reflect on their own actions, recognizing the consequences of cruelty and the importance of treating others with respect. Alex did not hope for acknowledgement or praise. He simply hoped that his presence had reminded them that life's challenges could be overcome with dignity and perseverance. As the night wore on, Alex spent time with Lily, helping her with homework, listening to her stories about her day and sharing quiet moments of laughter. These simple, everyday interactions were the true markers of his success, the love, guidance, and support he provided for his daughter. He realized that while the reunion had been an opportunity to face the past, the most important aspects of life were found in these moments of connection, care, and shared joy. In the quiet of the evening, Alex reflected on how much he had grown since high school. He remembered the timid, insecure boy who had been mocked and belittled, and he contrasted that memory with the man he had become, a person of confidence, resilience, and integrity. The transformation had not been sudden or easy. It had been forged through years of effort, perseverance, and unwavering commitment to creating a better life. He felt a sense of pride, not in arrogance, but in the knowledge that he had faced life's challenges with courage and had built a meaningful, loving life for himself and his daughter. Alex also thought about the future. He knew that life would continue to present challenges and opportunities, and that the lessons of resilience, patience, and integrity would continue to guide him. He resolved to remain true to his values, to continue providing a stable and loving environment for Lily, and to approach each new day with the same quiet confidence that had carried him through the reunion. He understood that true success was measured not by recognition from others, but by the ability to navigate life's ups and downs with grace, courage, and compassion. Lily, sensing her father's contemplative mood, rested her head on his shoulder as they sat together. Alex felt a deep sense of fulfillment and gratitude. He had faced the past, navigated the present, and set an example for the future. The reunion had been a moment of reflection and affirmation, but the true measure of his life's success was found in the love, care, and guidance he provided for his daughter each day. As they prepared for bed, Alex tucked Lily in and listened to her recount the events of the day. Her enthusiasm and curiosity were contagious, and he felt a renewed sense of purpose. He realized that the challenges he had faced and the growth he had achieved were not just personal victories. They were lessons he could pass on to her, teaching her the importance of resilience, integrity, and self-respect. In her eyes, he saw the reflection of his own journey and the promise of a future built on the values he held dear. After Lily fell asleep, Alex stayed up for a while, reflecting on the evening and the lessons of the reunion. He thought about how far he had come, the obstacles he had overcome, and the life he had built through determination and love. He understood that the past, while a part of his story, no longer had power over him. The true measure of his success was found in his character, his relationships, and the life he shared with his daughter. The quiet satisfaction he felt was deeper and more meaningful than any external recognition could provide. In the days that followed, Alex continued to reflect on the reunion and the subtle changes it had brought to his perspective. He felt a renewed sense of confidence not rooted in ego, but in the knowledge that he had faced challenges and emerged stronger. He recognized that life would continue to present obstacles, but he felt prepared to navigate them with the same integrity, patience, and resilience that had carried him through the past 10 years. The experience reinforced his belief that true strength was measured by character, not by the opinions or judgments of others. Alex also found himself sharing insights from the reunion with Lily in small, gentle ways. He emphasized the importance of kindness, perseverance, and self-respect, using his experiences to teach her valuable lessons about life. He wanted her to understand that challenges were opportunities for growth, and that true success was built on integrity, empathy, and resilience. The reunion had provided a moment of closure and affirmation, but the ongoing impact was found in the lessons he could pass on to the next generation. As weeks turned into months, Alex carried the lessons of the reunion with him in everyday life. He approached work, parenting, and personal challenges with renewed focus and confidence. He engaged with people genuinely, listened with empathy, and acted with integrity, knowing that these qualities defined him far more than past insecurities or external judgments ever could. The reunion had been a catalyst, a reminder of the journey he had traveled and the values that had guided him through life. Alex realized that his story was not defined by the mistakes or cruelty of others, but by his own choices, actions, and perseverance. He had transformed the pain of the past into strength, using it to build a meaningful and fulfilling life. The reunion had been a moment of reflection and affirmation, but the true impact was ongoing, shaping the way he lived, loved, and taught his daughter. He understood that life's challenges were opportunities to grow, and that resilience, patience, and integrity were the keys to navigating them successfully. Looking back on the entire experience, Alex felt a profound sense of accomplishment. He had faced the people who once mocked him, navigated the reunion with grace and composure, and demonstrated the quiet power of dignity and resilience. More importantly, he had reaffirmed the values that had guided him through life and set an example for Lily that would influence her for years to come. He had reclaimed his story, transformed past pain into personal growth, and embraced the future with confidence and purpose. As Alex drifted off to sleep that night, he felt a sense of peace and fulfillment that had eluded him for years. The reunion was over, but the lessons and affirmations it had provided would stay with him forever. He had faced the past, navigated the present, and built a foundation for the future that was strong, meaningful, and filled with love. And in that quiet, peaceful moment, Alex knew that he had truly triumphed. Not through revenge or recognition, but through the enduring strength of character, resilience, and unwavering love for his daughter. Although the story was originally intended to be told in 5 parts, Alex's journey continued beyond the reunion in ways that were quietly transformative, both for him and for Lily. In the weeks following the event, he found himself reflecting deeply on the experiences of the past and the subtle changes that the reunion had sparked. It was not just about facing old classmates. It had become a turning point in understanding the value of resilience, empathy, and the impact of small, consistent choices over time. Alex began to notice changes in himself that were almost imperceptible at first. He felt a newfound patience in situations that previously might have caused frustration. Small challenges at work or minor setbacks in daily life no longer triggered anxiety or self-doubt. Instead, he approached them with a steady mind, thinking through solutions calmly, knowing that obstacles were part of the journey and that persistence often brought more results than rushing or reacting emotionally. This subtle shift in mindset was freeing, allowing him to live with a greater sense of peace and confidence. Lily, observing her father, noticed the change as well. She commented on how calm he seemed even in moments that might have stressed others, and she found herself inspired by his ability to approach problems thoughtfully. It was a living lesson in resilience, showing her that strength wasn't about power or dominance but about patience, understanding, and steady effort. Alex's example became a guiding force in her own life, shaping how she faced her own challenges at school and in social situations. One afternoon, Alex received an unexpected message from one of the classmates who had once been among the harshest critics during high school. The message was simple, an acknowledgement of the past and a quiet expression of admiration for the life Alex had built. It was not a dramatic apology or a public declaration, but the sincerity behind it carried weight. Alex smiled, recognizing that this was a reflection of his own growth, not a need for validation. He replied graciously, emphasizing that the past was behind them and that life was about moving forward with integrity and kindness. Inspired by the reunion and these small gestures of acknowledgement, Alex decided to focus more intentionally on his community. He realized that the lessons he had learned through hardship could be shared to help others navigate their own challenges. He began volunteering at a local center, offering mentorship to young adults who were struggling with self-esteem, bullying, or family difficulties. He shared his story in ways that were honest and relatable, emphasizing resilience, hard work, and the importance of self-respect. The impact was immediate. Those who listened to him found encouragement and practical advice for their own journeys. Through this volunteer work, Alex discovered another layer of fulfillment. Helping others navigate challenges reminded him of how far he had come and reinforced the value of empathy. Each conversation, each small piece of guidance, and each story shared created a ripple effect, showing how personal experiences could become powerful tools for supporting and uplifting others. This sense of purpose strengthened his own confidence and provided a meaningful connection to the broader community. Meanwhile, at work, Alex's business began to flourish in ways that were both expected and surprising. His reputation for integrity and dedication drew clients who valued more than just technical skill. They appreciated his honesty, attention to detail, and thoughtful communication. Alex approached business decisions with the same calm confidence he had developed personally, and this consistency earned respect among colleagues and partners. Success came not only from effort but from the relationships he nurtured and the trust he cultivated over time. Lily remained at the center of his life, her bright curiosity and energy inspiring him every day. Alex made it a point to include her in his journey, teaching her the value of perseverance, kindness, and practical wisdom. He took her on small adventures, encouraging exploration and curiosity, while also fostering an understanding of responsibility and empathy. Through these shared experiences, Lily began to see that the world was a place where challenges existed, but patience, effort, and understanding could transform obstacles into opportunities. One evening, after a particularly busy day at work, Alex and Lily sat together on the porch watching the sunset. The colors stretched,